Hi and welcome to the 64 Doors. Today we're going to open door 40. Here we find the Father, and this is an archetype that is all about work, rest, and resolve. We're going to explore the Father from a human design perspective and a gene key perspective. So here we have the Rave Mandala, and inside it we have the wheel of astrology with all the 12 signs. So right now we have the Sun in Virgo in gate 40. We have the Earth in Pisces in gate 37, and the design part of the cross is the 9 in Sagittarius and the 16 in Gemini. And this is what we call the incarnation cross in human design. In Gene Keys, we call it the activation sequence. And this is exactly the same thing. It's made up of 4 gates or 4 gene keys. People that are born with the Sun in Virgo in gate 40 are born in one of 6 days, and they can have 3 different crosses with that Sun in the 40. And the first cross is the cross of planning, the second one is the cross of denial, and the third one is the cross of migration. And since the cross doesn't have a 90-degree angle, but 88-degree angle, we're going to see that in the first cross, we have the 16 and the 9 in the design. And in the other 2, we have the 35 and the 5. So the 16 and the 9 are about talents and versatility in the 16, about the focus on details and step by step in the 9. And the 35 and the 5, here we have the hunger for adventure. Here we have the natural rhythms of the sacral center. So very different flavor. And I want to read the cross of planning, because this is the cross that humanity has been in for 400 years in the collective cycles. And we are just shifting into a new collective cycle. And the cross of the sleeping phoenix in just the next coming years. 2027 is when it changes over, but already we're starting to feel the energy of the next cross. So as I read this, you can feel into, is this what society has been about for the last few hundred years? The point of your cross is to evaluate the cost of community projects. This is all about the evaluation of the bargain. How much work is going to be needed and what is the return? Your cross has the channel of community. But with the transition from individual to community, we have to give things up to fit in. We have to give currency of either money or work to build and be part of that community. Your cross is here to say, like that idea, but is it worth the cost? And in order to understand this cross a little bit better, and any cross a little bit better, I will go to the Gene Key website and make my profile, and then you will actually have a whole page just explaining that activation sequence with a paragraph for each one of the gates or each one of the keys. So if we go back here to the Rave Mandala, we see that there's something quite special. We have the 37 and the 40. They are programming partners. They are on opposite sides of the wheel, and they're mirror opposites. So wherever we have in the hexagram of the 40 an open line, we're going to have a closed line in the 37. Wherever there's a closed line, there's going to be the opposite on this side. And so this is the programming partners, and they're also forming the channel of community between the will center and the emotion center. And there are only a few channels that are both channels and programming partners. When we go to the circuitry book and read about this channel, it's the channel of community, a design of a part seeking a whole. The purpose of your life is to discover where you belong in the grand scheme of things, and then to live out that. And then it says, instead of trying to figure out where you fit in, wait and see which people and communities invite you in. So that kind of like waiting to see, that's quite the human design way. When we look a little bit more at the archetype of the Father, the 40, here it says, people who need to balance work and rest. So here we have an archetype. The father is very generous and who loves to be part of community and who loves work actually, and who can have a little bit of a problem with setting boundaries. And that's where, if this archetype is using that will, knowing that it comes from the will center, from the ego center, if it's using will to push, it can often not even feel that it needs rest. And instead, here it has a lot to do for this archetype to know that the universe or God has his back. The father needs to know that, and then he taps into kind of flow and an infinite source of energy instead of like pushing with that will center. So there is a lot of work ethics in this archetype. There is also an inner relaxation that comes when this archetype stops to battle with life and trusts that it's taken care of, and that doing your best is enough. And if we go to the gene keys here, we are going to see that the low frequency is exhaustion. So the gene keys work as a frequency band. The low frequency is very contracted, it's tense, it's about fear. And then the higher frequencies, the green word and the blue word, they're all about expansion and trust and love. So in the low frequency here, we have that exhaustion, that pushing, that not trusting, that thinking that we need to push through. And it is the victim of fatigue. And we see in the programming partner that we have weakness as the word. And if we look at the integral human design and look at the whole channel, we're going to see that we have this bargaining. And looking at the archetypes having the mother and the father, in this low frequency, we have very traditional roles of the mother and the father. So the father goes out in the world and works hard and then comes back with the food, and the mother stays home with the kids. And it's those very set roles. And it's like, okay, I do this because it's my role. I do this because it's my role. It's not actually maybe exactly what each unique person is best at. So from that lower frequency going up to higher frequencies as community and cooperation. So this is really where everybody is unique and everybody adds to the community in their unique way. And we don't have to have these set roles just because that's the way traditionally it's supposed to be. So that's the mutation that is going on in the emotional center, where there are many things that are changing in the way that we relate to each other, in the way that we are living together as human beings. And this is also connected to the codon ring. So here we have the codon ring of alchemy. This is a new codon ring, a new Godhead. We have been in the ring of union for 4 gates. Now we're coming into the codon ring of alchemy. And I wanted to read to you a little bit about it. So we have the 6 that is breaking down the barriers in human relationship. We have the 40 that is forging this new openness into our communities, the 47 that is allowing us to transform our old ways, and the 64 that is opening up to a fresh set of possibilities. And really, this is a codon ring that is really containing an alchemical process that is gradually bringing peace to earth. And it's a process of karmic release that allow our higher subtle bodies to manifest directly through our physical body. So a kind of mystical codon ring. And you're going to see as we move through the gates and the coming transits, the 6, the 64, the 47, that they are powerful. And I'm curious about what names we're going to find for the archetypes. In the I Ching, we have thunder over water, deliverance. And here we have, when we look at the geometry, so water, so that's the 29, half-heartedness, commitment, devotion. And then thunder, that's agitation, initiation, and awakening. That's the 51. So we could say that the 40, it's the 51 over 29. That's the geometry of it. And then we also have the frequency band here. So exhaustion is agitated half-heartedness. Resolve is initiating commitment. And divine will is the awakened devotion. And it says, flow effortlessly like water to experience the energy of spirit. That's super beautiful. In astrology, we are in this Virgo energy, mutable earth, and It says Virgo is the leaf, always reaching for the light of spirit and doing the inner work that feeds the tree. And it's service to spirit through the devotion to sacred work. And in the dream arc, I love this, we have the cat. And if you haven't been and looked at Jane Addams' blog, please do that. Here, this is such a beautiful photo. And if we speak about resolve and relax and rest, you know, isn't the cat just like not worried at all, right? So many beautiful pictures. And here we have the whole dream arc with all the animals. And here we have the codon ring as well. So let's see, is there any? And also Jane is painting the mudra every time. So here we have the mudra of divine will, and you can get the library as well in the Gene Key library. And let's see, is there anything else? I think we actually went through everything. This is a good week to look at your relationships in your community and see what roles you're taking on. Are you taking on a role just because that's expected of you? Or in your relationship, can you feel how there is nurturing, how there is reciprocity, how everybody in your community is kind of in their right place and doing what they're good at and what they love and what is also adding to the prosperity of the community? It's a good week to look at your boundaries and see, are you able to say no to things? And do you feel that no is a full sentence? Or do you feel like you always have to explain why there's a no? Or maybe you're kind of isolating to not even be asked. So what is your relationship to being able to say no, to the boundaries that you're setting? Are you generous with others? And in that case also, are you able to be generous with yourself? It's a week where we can look at how much alone time do we need? Is alone time a way for us to regenerate? Is that something that is helping us to feel like we are kind of recharging our batteries? And maybe in your case, it's not how you recharge your batteries. Maybe you don't have this archetype in your profile, for example. There are other ways that you feel like you are getting back your energy again. It's also a good week to feel into how much do you trust the divine? How much do you feel like God or the universe or the cosmic helpers have your back? And is it possible to surrender a little bit more? It's also the first seal. The 40th gene key is coding, or it's the portal, you could say, to the first seal. So here we really have that last layer before we can completely surrender. And in the first seal, Richard is speaking about the bones. So here's like all the way into the bone marrow. Like how much can we surrender? So it is a powerful gene key that opens up to a powerful codon ring. And I'm wishing you a good week, and I will be back with you next week. Thank you.